How do we become fully realized human beings? How do we find purpose and meaning in life? One option is to find it for ourselves. Perhaps I should focus on what makes me happy, to find my purpose for myself, work on my self-esteem. Don't let anyone else tell you what to do or how to live. What matters is what you want, who you are, and what you think and feel, both about yourself and the rest of the world. You define your own truth, your own meaning, your own purpose. Maybe that approach will work. But what if we took the opposite approach? Confucianism is one of the two great philosophical systems of China, along with Daoism, which we explored in our previous video. For the Confucian, the suggestions earlier would seem positively insane. For them, purpose, meaning and esteem are to be found through the community. Before we examine these claims in a little more detail, let's briefly examine the life of its founder, the great Chinese philosopher, Confucius. Confucius, or Kongzi as it is sometimes translated, was born on September 28, 551 BC in Zhou, which is in modern-day Shandong province. His father, Konghe, died when Confucius was 3 years old, and Confucius was raised by his mother, Yang Zhengzai, in poverty. His mother would later die at less than 40 years of age. At age 19, he married Qiguan, and a year later, the couple had their first child, Kongli. Qiguan and Confucius would later have 2 daughters together, one of whom is thought to have died as a child. Confucius was educated at schools for commoners. He is said to have worked in various government jobs during his early 20s and as a bookkeeper and a caretaker of sheep and horses, using the proceeds to give his mother a proper burial. When his mother died, Confucius was aged 23 and is said to have mourned for 3 years, as was the tradition. Eventually he rose to the position of Minister of Crime. However, he grew disappointed with the decadence and poor moral standards of his duke, and so he resigned and began a long journey around the various states of China. At the courts of these states, he expounded his political beliefs, advising them on how to create happy, prosperous, and well-ordered society. However, he did not stay to see these reforms implemented, because he would then move on to the next state. Eventually, he returned home to his native Lu when he was 68, where he continued to act as a governmental advisor. His teachings are contained in the Analects, which is one of the key texts within Confucianism. It was compiled by his followers and primarily consists of his sayings, ideas, and teachings. Like Plato's dialogues, it's written as a series of conversations, only this time, of course, between Confucius and other individuals, rather than Socrates. He died at the age of 71 or 72 from natural causes. He was buried in Konglin Cemetery, which lies in the historical part of Kufu in the Shandong province. His tomb can still be seen today. So what advice did Confucius give to the various rulers he taught? Well, the goal, according to Confucianism, is to become a yunzi. The yunzi is the exemplary goal of the ethical life. The Chinese word originally meant prince's son, and it's sometimes translated as gentleman. Obviously, this language is masculine, as you'd expect during that time in history, but perhaps we can take the basic insight and apply it to both men and women. As a result, other more recent translators have suggested that yunzi should be translated as exemplary person. A yunzi is a person displaying and acting upon all of the virtues. It's particularly important that our leaders are yunzi. This is because when they are behaving properly, this will encourage everyone else to behave properly. The virtues of the yunzi are ren, benevolence or humaneness, yi, which means justice, li, rights, zi, knowledge, zin, which means integrity, zong, loyalty, xiao, filial piety. Ren is of particular importance and is often used in a broader sense for someone who has all of the virtues. As a result, a Ren person, when used in this broader sense, is a yunzi. Loyalty and obedience to one's superiors is extremely important for the Confucian. This is not just because they are in a position of power and so they can make your life difficult if you displease them, but it's also because morality requires it. Morality requires us to obey our superiors. At the same time, this is a two-way relationship, and the superior should treat his subordinate in a just, respectful, and proper way, whilst promoting their subordinates' interests and well-being. Perhaps much of our scepticism about hierarchy and our suspicion of authority figures in the West stems from our historical leaders often failing to treat their subordinates in an appropriately benevolent manner. Maybe. Filial piety is extremely important for the Confucian. Filial piety is simply respect for one's parents, family members, and ancestors. This is crucial within Confucianism. We ought to honour and respect our parents, obey them, advise them wisely on moral and practical matters, be polite to them and care for them in their old age. We also ought to bring honour to our families by building and preserving a good name for ourselves and them. It may be becoming clear that relationships are extremely important within Confucianism. According to Confucianism, social harmony requires all of us to know our place and to play our part and role within society well. As such, Confucianism, as well as being described as a version of virtue ethics, is sometimes described as a version of role ethics, with the emphasis being placed on our relationships and the roles we play in society. The emphasis placed on society, on us rather than on me, and on how we can contribute and serve the rest of society. You may remember in our video on Daoism that Laozi advocates a return to naturalness and suggests we should be like an unpolished, uncarved piece of wood. Confucius takes the opposite approach. He suggests that we ought to constantly polish and refine our nature. In the Analects he writes, as you cut and then file, as you carve and then polish. So how do we polish our nature and develop the virtues? Well, we do this through rituals. Rituals are extremely important within Confucianism, and they encompass all areas of human life. It is through rituals that we develop the virtues and thus become Ren and Yunzi. Two rituals of note are the tea drinking ceremony, which you may have heard of, and the lengthy mourning and funeral rites, which must be observed after the death of a parent, which Confucius exemplified. The mourning and funeral rites also nicely illustrate the importance of filial piety and family in Confucian thought. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you in our next video on the wisdom of the East. But until then, look after each other. Take care. Goodbye.